It's been a long road getting from here to there, but we've reached the final episode of our first half for Star Trek Prodigy. It's been a wild ride, but does this mid-season final answer some of our burning questions? Or leave us with even more questions that still need to be answered for the sake of some of us going mental? If you've watched the episode, you'll know we're definitely discussing that cliffhanger ending, because of course we are. Though, if you've not watched the episode, why are you listening to me? Go watch it. But anyway, let's dive in. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack, and let's get right into it. Just as with part 1 of A Memorial Star, this episode of a two-parter, A Memorial Star Part 2, was written by the entire Season 1 writers' room of Star Trek Prodigy, and directed by Ben Hibben. The episode does see the conclusion of our 10-episode arc as we get to the halfway mark of the first season, but how did it stack up? Let's jump into a review of the episode. Now, like always, if you do want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can of course follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. Now, as always, please do let us know your thoughts on the latest episode of Star Trek Prodigy down below in the comment section, because like always, if you are talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Okay, engage, or shall I say, go fast. Let's start off by saying this episode was really great. Resolving this arc we had against the Diviner is very interesting, and it did it in an interesting way. The Diviner gets taken down by the combined efforts of not only the Protostar crew, but also his actions finally having consequences and coming back to bite him in the ass. Dal managed to transform the ankle bracelets into universal translators, allowing the minds to work together and finally communicate. I absolutely adore that the first time we see these minds communicating is the first time we saw them communicate without translators. They roared at each other in the very first episode. In this episode, two workers come together to profess their love for each other, which was just amazing, if not a little bit cliche at the same time. Now, the workers managed to come together and defeat Dreadnought, including the Cartesian Child, who we know has retractable claws sharp enough to cut an android's head off. I would want to think that Tiana does have those on lower decks, but that might be a little bit scary. Another example of the actions of the Diviner coming back to bite him is Zero. He used Zero as a weapon to break the minds of his slaves and bring them into the obedience by turning them mad. And Zero does this with the Diviner, showing their true Medusian form and making him go mad. The Diviner's mission has finally come to an end as they left on Tars Lamor as his only unwanted left. Though we've essentially left him to die there, which is slightly morbid, but then again it's the kids show so they didn't quite say that. So maybe we left him a food replicator at least. Who knows? Now let's talk more about the Diviner and his goal, as we finally get a lot more answers to our questions regarding him. Yes, the Diviner was sent back in time from a destroyed Solum, the homeworld of the Valkanut. Solum itself was destroyed in a civil war, because half of them were holding on to the past, and half of them wanted to embrace the future. This is actually a fascinating and more nuanced look at First Contact, and the effect it can have on a civilization, especially with a species that from a dialogue in this episode, views itself as superior to others. With the Diviner's goals, it very much seems like he and his order were on the side of isolationism, wanting to remain in the past. This could make sense of why the Order seemingly didn't allow the creation of progeny in Gwendala. The Diviner was sent back with a specific mission for destroying the Federation, so that First Contact would not destroy the Valkanut in turn. Dreadnought was beholden to this mission, and creating progeny, a future, was probably against the Order, as it just goes to show how flawed their mission actually is. The Diviner's faction in the Civil War was trying to keep clinging on to the past, unable to accept what had been lost. If this species had technology capable of creating offspring, they could have had a future, and not had to cling on to their revenge at the end of the day. It is a very fascinating story they've created for the Diviner, and I look forward to perhaps eventually getting to Solum later in the show, and making sure that First Contact does not become disastrous for them. Especially since Gwyn might be with Starfleet during First Contact, it might help the Valkanauts shed their superiority complex and not go to civil war. One would hope so. But now the Diviner's plan. He wants to do to Starfleet and the Federation what happened to Solum, have them fight each other. Somehow he had already, sometime, equipped a weapon onto the Protostar, which would corrupt Starfleet ship systems and turn ship against ship. This is some very complex stuff, which I'm really happy about, and we might do a video dedicated to the Diviner's plan because there's some very interesting developments for the show and Star Trek in general. While this episode was fantastic in resolving certain plot lines, it also opened up many more. Yes, we did get information about the Diviner, his species, and the ultimate goal of apparently destroying Starfleet, but it still does not seem fully resolved. Obviously it's because the Protostar is still carrying a weapon that's going to infect Starfleet vessels when it eventually comes into contact with a ship. I wonder which one, it would seem. Okay, we've known that Kate Mulgrew would be playing multiple different versions of herself in Star Trek Prodigy. While many of us thought the evil hologram Janeway would be the last one we'd see, lo and behold, Vice Admiral Janeway has returned, and she has an interesting new starship to command. Before we do get into the ship though, let's talk about Janeway. This is of course Vice Admiral Janeway, decorated with a new Starfleet uniform and comm badge to go with it, and she's commanding the USS Dauntless. Janeway's clearly out and about on the hunt for Captain Chakotay, her former first officer of the USS Voyager and long lost friend it seems. I will say, this Starfleet uniform and comm badge has been seen before, in many of the alternate timelines we've seen of Star Trek, from All Good Things in The Next Generation to Deep Space Nine's The Visitor and Voyager's Endgame. With Janeway's percent for not really caring about the timeline, could it be that Admiral Janeway has also come to a pass to search for Chakotay? I guess time will tell. Her closing line is, "I'm coming for you, Chakotay." This line first suggests to us that Janeway has been searching for Chakotay for some time now, as well as hinting at a possible relationship between both characters. The idea of Janeway and Chakotay being together has been a popular fan favourite idea for some time now, so it does make sense we get a hint of that, if that's the case. Okay, the ship Janeway is commanding, the USS Dauntless, is a welcome surprise. Obviously, many of us were expecting the USS Voyager to show up. Whether it is, we'll never know right now, but instead we've got the return of a rather unique class of starship. The Dauntless was first seen in Star Trek Voyager as a fake starship, made by Atreus, who wanted to trap the Voyager crew and hand them over to the Borg, but that never went well for him. Since then, it appears that Starfleet has made their own Dauntless class starship. Whether this ship also has a quantum slipstream technology remains to be seen. I'd expect so personally, as it could be used to explain how the Dauntless eventually will catch up with a protostar, given the proto jumps it can make. Now if you don't know what a Dauntless is, or simply need a refresher on the ship, we actually did a video breaking down the Dauntless, which you can see here on the channel right now. Also on screen if Editor Troy would be so kind enough. So go give it a look if you want to know more about the origins of this new USS Dauntless. Also, with the Dauntless class ship being a service, it definitely makes an appearance in Star Trek Enterprise during a battle at Procyon V make a lot more sense. Perhaps a ship in the 26th century was this USS Dauntless, aka NCC 80816. Well hey. The bridge of the Dauntless is remarkably similar to the bridge we see of the fake Dauntless in Star Trek Voyager, and we get a look at some of Janeway's crew. A while ago we did get some more cast announcements from the show, and it seems like these characters are here despite only one of them talking. The Andorian is Commander Khaleesi, voiced by Debbie Diggs. The trio we actually hear in the episode is Ensign Acinia, voiced by Jamil Jamil. And the Tellite Doctor in the background is Dr. Noam, who is voiced by Jason Alexander. I look forward to interacting more with this crew during the next part of the show and can't wait to see more of them. I think the next half of season 1 will revolve around Janeway catching up with the USS Protostar, and more of a Chakotay mystery revealing itself. Whether we're going to get a situation when the Dauntless catches up to the Protostar, now that will remain to be seen, but I expect so. Another great aspect of this episode was just the crew in general, especially Rok-Tahk. She's still using the skills she learned in the Time Loop episode to save the day, managing to kickstart the reactor of the Rev-12. I also have to say, the Rev-12 engine looked very similar to the warp core we see in the Kelvin timeline, USS Enterprise in Star Trek Into Darkness. Not saying this is the Kelvin timeline, especially with Janeway there, but it definitely reminded me of how Kirk was kicking the injector back into place. Gwyn managed to reprogram a Janeway hologram into not only overcoming a corruption, or seemingly not being corrupted to begin with, though I'll have to recheck with one of those because it didn't quite make sense, but to actually be able to interact with the physical world. Obviously we've seen holograms interact with people before, but seemingly Janeway was not given those features. Maybe she's just an advising hologram who managed low-level systems, and therefore not needing to interact with the real world at hand. But this also means that Janeway can finally give Rok-Tahk a hug and the rest of the Protostar crew. But where do we finally end up with this show? The Protostar is going to head back to Starfleet, but we know that if it does, the weapon will activate and corrupt all Starfleet vessels. So maybe the Dauntless will intercept it first, and we get that tense standoff between Protostar and Dauntless. Now this is why the crew are going to try and fix the corruption, hopefully. Now with the corruption being Valkanaut and Origin, Gwyn could fix that, similarly to the encryption on the Protostar files she fixed in the previous episodes. Whatever happens next in Prodigy, we are very much excited, and it's been a great start to the show. I'm excited for it. And yes, we're going to have to wait for the next 10 episodes of the show. It's going to be on our mind for the next season break, when it's sometimes coming down later the line. We don't know when the next 10 episodes will be. Sometime later this year, there is no confirmed date so far. Of course, if you do subscribe to us here on Trek Central and follow us on social media, we'll be sure to let you know as soon as we know when you can watch the great show. But what did you think of this mid-season final of the Star Trek Prodigy? Did it meet your expectations? Are you excited for what's to come? And what do you think is actually going to happen down the road? All of this and more, let us know in the comments below as usual, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. And again, if you want to keep up to date on all related Star Trek news and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media to join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with Star Trek Discovery Season 4. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.